Summit with Next Big Idea, live at the center stage in a series of conversations that are powered by Portugal Tech and the European Investment Fund. I'm here with Pedro Santos. Hi, Pedro.
Hello,
Thank you for
Anish.
joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Pedro is partner at Armilar. Pedro, the first thing I wanted you to tell us is where is Armilar looking at? Where do you act? What do you do? Just give us context.
Okay. So Armilar has been around for 20 something years. So, but to a large extent, we've been around in doing venture capital investments for a long time. Venture in 20 something years in venture capital in Europe is a long time. 20 something years in venture capital in Portugal is a really long time. So we started out doing international investment because there was really not a lot of investment opportunities around. Gained a lot of experience investing in the US. And then as all the ecosystems in Europe and in Portugal in particular started to develop, we started bringing that experience closer to home. What we're focused on is on early stage investment. So it goes anywhere from the inception stage when a company is born until a little bit later, but always in what is considered the early stage. In technology intensive companies. So what that means is that we try to find companies that have strong differentiation through the technology that they own, that they've developed. Oftentimes it comes out of research in university, other times not, but essentially it needs to be a defensible position through the technology. Essentially, it means that we don't invest in the pure internet businesses, e-commerce marketplaces. That's not really our specialty. There's nothing wrong with that area, of course, but it's not our specialty. We invest in companies that have proprietary technology.
So in 2023, we were here and we were talking about how rough the next year was going to, in 2022 actually, how the next year would be rough. But everyone is telling me there is money. You just need to be at the level to actually get that capital to you. So was the bar raised? The bar was raised in the last year?
The bar was raised in terms of if the bar means the level of demand for
Yeah,
the companies to get
exactly.
funded. It was raised, and indeed there is money. I mean, the funds that had raised significant amounts of capital in the last 5 years have not deployed all the capital that they have raised. So they have capital, they have the capacity to continue to invest. Now the market dynamics and logic for investment has become a lot more cautious. That is just a fact. So the valuations are not what they were, but you have to put it into context that we're comparing to a couple of years, 2020 and 2021, which were extraordinary.
Yeah.
In my opinion, they should never have existed. In the sense, there was a lot of exaggeration and exuberance in the market, in investment, in the valuations, in the type of things that would get funded at high valuations. If you strip away those 2 years, the level of activity today, we're sort of getting it back to normal. That is my point. So yes, of course, when compared to 2021, this is much harder to raise capital, of course. But again, there is capital available. So yes, the good companies will get funded, for sure.
How important are initiatives like Portugal Tech in this context?
Yeah, Portugal Tech and the public investment from the European Investment Fund that manages Portugal Tech in the Portuguese context is extremely relevant. Unfortunately, the number of investments of investors in venture capital funds and the capital that they have to invest in capital funds in Portugal is very scarce. It continues to be. So without a public initiative, and we've seen that across every European country. Every European country has a state initiative to ignite the venture capital industry through investing in venture capital funds and, of course, matching those funds then with private capital. We don't have a large initiative of that kind in Portugal. We've had Portugal Tech that has played a major role. And with the EIF bringing the experience of managing those sorts of funds, the EIF being, of course, the largest European investor in venture capital funds, that experience and that amount of capital is absolutely crucial for venture capital funds to get minimally capitalized and to gain the experience of deploying that capital. Having said that, it continues to be, I would say, the main fragility of the Portuguese ecosystem is the lack of local capital. Fortunately, we've had very good companies and success stories that have attracted international investors into the Portuguese market. So if you put together the local capacity that again is scarce with the international capacity that's coming to Portugal, and they saw companies like OutSystems and Fisa, just to name from our portfolio, came out of nowhere. So they have never heard of them, and all of a sudden they're a very large company. So there must be something going on in Portugal.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's not a lot of capital there, so great opportunity for international funds to invest there. And for the Portuguese ecosystem, that is good because not only brings capital, it brings sometimes also very experienced investors into the mix, and that is a positive thing.
You are European focused, and that's, I mean, we cannot compare ourselves to the American market, right? In this.
That is debatable.
Okay, so tell me, yeah.
So of course, the U.S. was the birth and the homeland of venture capital. Their venture capital industry dates back from the 50s and 60s, so they have tremendous amount of experience, lots of investors and funds, very professional ones, some very big ones. So of course, they're years ahead of Europe in terms of experience. But I would say that the European venture capital industry and the entrepreneurial ecosystem and the startup culture has evolved very rapidly. And there are metrics in which we compare favorably against the US venture capital industry, for example. And when I say we, I mean the European venture,
Yes.
venture capital industry. So yes, of course, we still have some catching up to do.
But we are in a
But
good,
it's
in a good position.
and it's no coincidence that U.S. investors come and invest in European companies. And we had
Because they see
several.
the opportunity.
They see the opportunity. They see that the European market gives them that space, whereas in the U.S. in some kinds it gets overly competitive and overcrowded. And so that attraction is very good for European ecosystem. And if we think of our little corner in Portugal. I mean, since we have been around for a long time, we always made it a point to try and attract international capital. And because we had a lot of experience in the US, we had a good network of US investor partners. And for a long time, we tried to convince them and to show them our best Portuguese companies. And for many years, it was, why would I invest in Portugal? It's like, I don't even know how to place it on a map, So it was kind of awkward. And then he went through a stage in which you show them this company, say, well, interesting company, why don't they move to the US or to the UK so that I could invest in them? And then all of a sudden, you have OutSystems being invested by Goldman Sachs and KKR, which are big household names, investors. Fidzi being invested by KKR. So all of a sudden, that checks the box that it is okay to invest in Portugal. So if those guys invested in Portugal, that must mean that the ecosystem is mature enough, companies are mature enough, the judicial system is mature enough, the investor base is mature enough. So all of a sudden that opened the floodgates, and now they come to us and say, "Well, what else have you got there? Like these companies that are best performing even in U.S. portfolios."
So, and Portugal is crafting a new law for startups, a new regulation. How do you see that change? It's really going to change things up?
I think it is definitely going in the right direction. It is a big help. That has been a handicap of the European ecosystem in the sense that there's different jurisdictions, there are different laws and different ways of rewarding talent and attracting talent. We're talking specifically about stock options, which is a big topic for the startup law. And so it was harder for a European company to attract and retain talent through stock options. And the employees themselves did not recognize a lot of value in stock options because of that. The tax situation is different in every country, but it was never very favorable. So the new startup law, and in particular in that particular area, has been very, very positive. And it's certainly, of course, it has areas that it can still get improved, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. And it will, I believe, being adopted throughout Europe in different variations, because we know that Europe always does that. Yeah. But certainly everybody involved in that direction will be very, very positive for the ecosystem.
Last question. When you look to next year, 2024, what you're looking for, what are your prospects?
I'm optimistic. Optimistic in the sense that like I said before, we're getting back to normal. And if getting back to normal feels still a little bit awkward or weird right now because we came from that big hype, next year it will just be normal. And so I think it's still a healthy investment discipline and culture that is in the market. Things will, again, with 20 something years of experience, we've been through cycles, and we know that cycles are what they are. They go and come back. So I think that in 2024 we'll start seeing some stability in the market, things that are very important for the venture capital market, which is the exits market. And I'm talking, of course, listings and IPOs and listing the shares in an exchange, or M&A, so acquisition by other companies that have been very, very slow these couple of years, and that is bad for venture capital. It'll start slowly going back to normal also. And that is key for everything to go back to normal, because without exits, there is no business in venture capital.
Pedro, thank you so much
It was my
for
pleasure.
joining us.
Pleasure to see you
Guys,
here.
as you know, we will be live for a few more conversations. Just click follow in like Next Big Idea LinkedIn, and we'll send you a notification when we start a new conversation, you will know it. Thank you. See ya.